Hello everybody, how is it going today? It is Tyler here with Zone in Sports, and in today's video we will be zoning in on the Week 11 College Football Playoff Top 25 rankings, as we will do a little reaction here, a little recap of the rankings, and then we will, give out our own, see where we change some certain teams, see what we agree with and disagree with from what the committee came up with here, the second installment this season of these College Football Playoff Top 25 rankings. So we'll go ahead and get right into it, man. So the top five, you got Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, TCU, and Tennessee. So of course you see some shaking up here at the top, as last week you saw number 3 at the time, Georgia, go on to beat number 1 Tennessee. So Georgia moves up to 1, Tennessee drops to 5. I definitely agree with these moves here. Georgia has to be number 1. I thought they probably should have been number 2 last week. I think that's where I had them. And, yeah, they beat number 1, so they got to be number 1. And, yeah, I don't think anybody really has a shot against Georgia again this year, man. I mean, who knows? Whoever comes out between Ohio State and Michigan might be able to give them a run for their money, but anyone else, I just don't see it happening. So number 4 drops out. Clemson, they take a loss. They drop to number 10 in the college football playoff rankings as they got whacked by Notre Dame, man. I was very surprised by this. Notre Dame has looked bad this year. They actually jump into the top 25 after that win against Clemson, and they jump up to number 20 with that 6-3 record. Now, I do not agree with this, man. I don't hate them being ranked, but if you're going to do it, man, they should barely be in there, like 24, 25. I don't even have them in my top 25. Yes, this was a very good win for them, but they have some very bad losses, man. Come on. You couldn't even beat Stanford at home? Or Marshall? Like, come on, man. You can't have a team in the top 25 that lost to Stanford and Marshall, especially a team like Notre Dame. So, yeah, I definitely don't agree with them being number 20. Wouldn't hate them being 24, 25. Personally, I don't even have them in my top 25. But, yeah, moving on. So, with the shaking up, with Tennessee dropping from 1 to 5, Georgia from 3 up to 1, Ohio State stays at number 2 there after a very tough game at Northwestern. They barely win 21-7, very windy conditions. So a lot of teams had to deal with that last Saturday. So, yeah, very odd game to see from them, not putting up a bunch of points and whatnot. But, hey, man, the weather can be a factor. And, well, it may be an excuse to keep them number 2 as to why the game was close. It's November, man. The games are going to have bad weather, especially when you're playing in the Big Ten. Like, that's going to happen. So that's something you're going to have to learn to deal with. And then number 3, Michigan. I do agree with Ohio State 2, Michigan 3. I almost put my Wolverines up there at 2. But overall, as a complete whole, Ohio State's resume technically is better. Barely, I think. But I do think that Michigan is a better squad. I would be very, very confident in us beating them again this year if the game were to be in Ann Arbor. But being at Ohio State, man, it's always going to be tough. Always going to be tough, but at least that's a few weeks away still. Basically, the rankings between Ohio State and Michigan doesn't matter until that game happens. Whoever wins that game is going to go on to win the Big Ten championship and get into the playoff. Now, the other factor is, can one of these teams get in with a loss? Like, whoever loses that matchup, can one of them still get in the playoff? Possibly, but I think you would need to see TCU lose, possibly even Tennessee lose again, because I think you might see a one-loss Tennessee team in over a one-loss Ohio State or Michigan team, because Tennessee's strength of schedule is very, very much stronger than Ohio State's and Michigan's. So I think one-loss Tennessee would definitely get in over that. Then, of course, if you see like Oregon or USC run the table, or UCLA out of the Pac-12 and end up winning the conference with just the one loss, maybe one of them sneak in. Even LSU, man, with the 2 losses, if they're at 7 now after that big win over Alabama, who was number 6 last week. LSU was number 10, and I did not like that. I had them at 16, but hey, man, they showed that they should be up there, and I don't even think that me putting them at 16 was disrespectful in any means. I was high on LSU going into the year. season preview video back in the end of August, we did give out their season win total over, which already hit, so that's cool. But yeah, LSU, man, they got the job done. Nice victory in the end at home. They go for 2. The game-tying touchdown. Instead of kicking the extra point to go to OT, they go for 2, man, and they get the win, man. That was pretty sweet. So LSU moves from 10 up to 7. Alabama goes from 6 down to 9. But yeah, like I said, LSU, man, a 2-loss team that could possibly sneak in because you know the committee has SEC bias, 110% chance. And if they go on to somehow beat Georgia in that SEC title game, I could see them possibly getting in with the 2 losses, man. It's definitely possible. So TCU replaces Clemson at 4. They're 9-0, moving up from 7 last week. Definitely well-deserving to be up there, man. They're undefeated. They keep getting the job done regardless of the situations or games being close or whatnot. They get the job done at the end of the day, man. They're 9-0. They deserve to be up there. And then, yeah, Tennessee 5. Oregon moves up to 6, moves up a couple spots. They're at 8-1, of course. They continue to look good. We got LSU 7. USC moves up a spot to number 8. We got Bama 9. Clemson drops from 4 to 10. Ole Miss on the bye week stays at number 11. UCLA stays at 12. Utah moves up to 13. Penn State up to 14. North Carolina moves up a couple spots to 15. NC State with the big win last week over Wake Forest. They move up 6 spots from 22 to 16. Remember, I had them down at number 24 last week, so you'll have to see once I'm done going over these rankings where I ended up putting them up to this week. You got Tulane moving up a couple spots to 17. You got Texas moving up 6 spots to 18. Now, remember, last week I did not agree with them being ranked. And, of course, after them beating the number 12 or number 13 Kansas State team, I think in the actual rankings they were 13. Kansas State, I had number 12 last week. But Texas goes on to beat them. So they definitely deserve to be ranked now. I don't know if I'll put them as high as 18. Probably right around there, 18, 19 area. But, yeah, Texas definitely a nice victory there over Kansas State. Not even surprised that Kansas State did this, man. It's just one of those teams that just likes to flip-flop every week on what type of team wants to show up to the game. Notre Dame at 20, like I already said, do not agree with this at all. Wouldn't hate them at 24 or 25, but definitely should not be up to 20. Yeah, it's an impressive victory against Clemson, but if you look at their overall resume, man, you lost at home to Marshall and Stanford. That's just not good. You cannot be a 3-loss team in the college football playoff top 25. With 2 of your 3 losses being those games. That's just bad losses, man. Illinois drops 5 spots to number 21, man. Very disappointing loss for them. Definitely surprised that they let Michigan State come into their house and beat them, man. Michigan State's had a terrible year. They got a bunch of guys suspended after that bull crap after the Michigan game, of course. But, yeah, Illinois, man, tough loss. They dropped to 21. UCF moves up a few spots to number 22 after another nice victory, improving to 7-2 on the year. And then a few teams entering the top 25 here, 23 and 24, both 6-3 teams, Florida State and Kentucky. And then number 25, Washington at 7-2. After they get the victory over, I believe, Oregon State was number 23 last week. I think I had them 22 in my rankings. But yeah, Washington, 7-2 definitely deserve to be ranked at this point, especially after beating a team that was ranked last week. So dropping out of the rankings, you had Oklahoma State with their tough loss against Kansas. Of course, no Spencer Sanders. So yeah, they just could not get the job done. Kansas scored plenty of points on them. Oklahoma State drops out of the rankings. Syracuse with another loss, man, after starting 6-0 this year. They lose 3 straight, man. That's very tough to see. I believe they did not have their quarterback Schrader either. So they drop out. Wake Forest, man, I don't understand what happened to this team, man. I like them a lot, and they just completely fell off, losing the last couple of weeks. And they drop out of the rankings, and we just mentioned Oregon State. They drop out after losing to Washington. So I will go over to my rankings now. So for the Week 11 Zone in Sports College Football Top 25 rankings, we have the same top 7 as the College Football Playoff, going Georgia at 1, Ohio State at 2, then Michigan, TCU, Tennessee, Oregon, and LSU. Then the first change up here, we have number 8, Ole Miss at 8-1. So we moved them up a couple spots after the bye week. I basically did this because USC just has not looked very impressive in some of their wins, and especially this past week. Their defense is just not looking good, man. I know they forced a lot of turnovers this year and whatnot, but outside of that, their defense is not good. So USC stays at 9. Got them at 8-1 there. Got Alabama dropping down to number 10 at 7-2. After that loss to LSU, man. Like I said, I got them the same as the playoff. Got them up at 7. Moved them all the way up from 16 is where I had them at last week. And staying at number 11, we've got UCLA at 8-1. I moved Utah from 14 up to number 12 at 7-2. And then Clemson, I dropped them down a little farther from 10. Definitely think that they have been a team that has been struggling throughout the year, man. They've been able to find ways to get victories, but they got absolutely exposed against a bad Notre Dame team. Well, I shouldn't say a bad Notre Dame team, but a Notre Dame team that I just don't think is very good and definitely shouldn't have been good enough to do what they did to Clemson, man. So Clemson, man, they definitely should have dropped farther than 10. I got them here at 13 at 8-1. They got to figure out what they're doing with that quarterback spot, man. Their offense just has not been looking good for most of the parts of this year, especially if they're not able to get Shipley going on the ground. So we move Clemson down from 4 to 13. And then at number 14, we got North Carolina at 8-1. We moved them up from the 15 spot. And then Penn State moves from 17 up to 15. We got Tulane moving from 19 up to 16 at 8-1. They got a big matchup coming up this week against number 20 UCF. UCF I have at 20 anyways. In the actual rankings, UCF is 22. But yeah, 17 is where I've got NC State after that nice victory last week. They are 16 in the actual rankings. I have them at 17. I moved Texas all the way up to 18. Did not have them ranked last week. But I moved them up to 18 after beating Kansas State, who I had number 12 last week. So nice victory there. And Kansas State follows Texas there at number 19, also 6-3. UCF I had move up from 23 to number 20 at 7-2. Illinois, after the bad loss to Michigan State, I have dropping from number 13 down to my 21 spot. And then entering my rankings this week. Now last week I did mention I was considering them with a few other teams for my last spot. And we put Liberty into number 22 here, first time in my rankings. They are 8-1, man, and we put them in because they beat the team that we did decide to put at the 25 spot last week. That was Arkansas at 5-3, which was probably a bad move on my part, but either way, man, Liberty gets the victory over a team that I had ranked. Probably shouldn't have, but got to move them in there, man. 8-1. They have had a solid year for sure. They probably shouldn't be 22 where I have them, but the college football playoff not putting them in at least 24, 25 is, I don't know. I just don't agree with that at all. So then we have 23 Kentucky, another team I considered for that 25 spot last week. They get a victory at Missouri, and I move them into my top 25 this week at number 23. Washington, remember they beat Oregon State, who we had at number 22 last week. So we moved them into that 24 spot with their 7-2 record. And then for my 25 spot, that's right, I did not put Notre Dame in my top 25 at all. I will put Baylor, who had a nice victory over Oklahoma last week. They are at 6-3 this year. Had a couple tough losses, but a couple of very good wins as of late. And they have their last 3 games of the season come up, all very tough ones with Kansas State, TCU, and Texas to round out the year, man. So if they win 2 of those 3, then I think they should definitely finish in the top 25. But it would be tough. I think they definitely at least win 1 of those for sure, but I could see them winning 2 out of those 3. I got Baylor at 25 there, man. So I do not agree with Florida State and Notre Dame being ranked. I just don't think Florida State has been impressive enough. I think them having a win against LSU definitely helps get them there. Like, if I had to put like a number 26, it would probably be Florida State and then Notre Dame 27. But either way, I just need to see a little bit more out of Florida State before I put them in my rankings. I just like Baylor a little bit more than them. Same with Kentucky and Liberty. But yeah, that's pretty much going to do it, man. There's definitely some good games coming up this weekend that could shake up these rankings some more. Of course, in the actual playoff rankings, Ole Miss is below Alabama. But I have Ole Miss at 8 and Alabama at 10. Where in the actual rankings, Ole Miss is 11 and Alabama's 9. So either way, a very big matchup in the SEC there. And we'll definitely shake up, around the 10 spot there in the rankings, depending on who wins this game. I would definitely love to see Ole Miss win it, but Alabama's they're hungry for a win, man. Their 2 losses were both very, very close against 2 teams in the top 10. So that's why they're still a top 10 team. And I think they will probably end up beating Ole Miss this week, but I would love to see Ole Miss get that win, man. Then, of course, we mentioned UCF and Tulane matching up this week. They got Tulane at 17 and UCF at 22. We've got Tulane at 16 and UCF at 20. Then you got Washington at Oregon is a pretty big matchup. They have Washington at 25 and Oregon at 6. We've got Washington at 24 and Oregon at 6 as well. And then a ranked matchup that I've got, but won't be ranked matchup for the actual rankings because they don't have Baylor ranked. But I've got Baylor at number 25 hosting number 19, Kansas State. Remember, Kansas State also number 19 in the actual rankings. Another big matchup in the Big 12. You got TCU at Texas. Now we got TCU at number 4 and Texas at number 18. We got the same spot there for our rankings as well as the college football playoff for those 2 teams. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up there, man. But yeah, just let me know in the comments what you think. What do you agree with and disagree with on the actual college football playoff rankings? And then also, what do you agree with on my own rankings? And, just let me know what you would do with the rankings. Some teams that you might think should be rated a little higher or some teams that might be overrated that you think should be ranked lower. Just let me know in the comments below. Always be sure to follow us over on Twitter as well at Zone In Sports. We will tweet out our straight picks for this Saturday slate, Saturday morning, as well as, parlays, teasers, all that good stuff. Make sure you follow us over there. Link is in the description at Zone In Sports on Twitter. And yeah, go ahead, leave the like. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate it a lot. And subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Have a nice day. Peace.